How should I introduce you?
I'm a writer.
Writer? Author?
Yeah.
Ooh. Any books that I may have read?
Nope.
I don't read, so. So probably
Anyway.
not. I don't have a name for this, so I don't know. They're just like, hey guys, welcome to Corey Cast.
But this podcast isn't really about you.
Why not?
Because it's
Hey,
not.
here, ask me the questions. Everybody, welcome to the first episode of the Corey Podcast. I'm still working on the name. On this podcast, I invited many different interesting Ukrainian people to talk about their region specifically. My first guest today, her name is Olga, and she's an author.
Hey, Corey.
Hey, Olga, how are you? I'm a big fan. I've been following you for a while.
Yeah, so was I.
And you said you saw me at a coffee shop. You didn't say hi.
Yes, it's actually a really small city. Kyiv is small.
It's,
when you live
yeah,
in the
it's,
city
it's a
center.
big village, they say.
It is, it is.
Yeah,
That's true.
so why didn't you say hi?
I was
Do
too
not-
embarrassed.
Am I too intimidating?
I felt like a fan, you know?
Yeah, because I think I've been following you longer than you've been following me. I don't know.
I think it happened like simultaneously, like
Oh, it
on,
was,
on
like,
the
at the same
day.
time, like,
Yeah,
okay,
I
yeah.
clicked follow button and so
I gue-
did you the
I
same
guess it was
time.
fate then. So, yeah, the podcast is about different regions in Ukraine. You're from Kherson.
Yeah.
How was it like growing up in Kherson? Like, I've been a few
Hot.
times. Hot?
It's scorching, yeah. Summer is horrible there. So, I mean, I should probably start by saying that I lived there up to the age of 20.
Okay.
Then
It's
I
like
moved
2 years ago.
Well, thank you. Then I moved to Kyiv, and then I moved to France. I spent 5 years in France, and then I got back. So I haven't really felt like Khersonka for a while, but
So, girls from Kherson is Khersonka?
yeah.
How about just
Khersonets for the guy and for
How about
the
just
females.
people, like Khersonian? Khersonian?
Khersonci.
Khersonci.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a
Plural is Khersonci.
Okay, right on.
But still, you know, it's like the feeling of your roots and heritage. So by moving away from my home time, that was when I actually realized that I was that southern girl from that region. And
Hmm.
you sort of become really nostalgic the further away you move from
Yeah, of
your
course.
home place.
So, on Kyiv, we have left bank and right bank. Is that the
Mm-hmm.
same thing in Kherson?
No, it's the same for the region because
Mm-hmm.
there is the left bank, which is right now under Russian occupation, and the city of Kherson is completely placed on the high right bank of Dnipro.
Okay, right on. So, yeah, you grew up there. What makes Kherson different than other regions? I'll tell you, like, I guess the impression I got. I've been to Kherson a couple times. City, I mean, I've been there before the war. City, it's very industrial, I guess. Not really too much going on. But I used to go there in Kherson region on vacation. I used to go to Skadovsk. And I used to camp on the island in the Black Sea, Zharohach. And Zharohach, apparently, it's the biggest island in the Black Sea. Did you know that, by the way?
yeah.
Did you know that? Okay. I thought I was teaching you something about Kherson. But yeah, I used to go there. It was amazing. And now it's occupied.
Yep.
It's like really sad.
Unfortunately.
But yeah, so how was it like growing up in Kherson, this city? Is it interesting for you, or?
It's really funny that you have this impression of an industrial place because I never did.
I mean, maybe I wasn't there for too long. You were.
Well, yeah, of course, like visiting and living is two different things. But for me, growing up, first of all, I grew up in several different homes. Like we were moving, my parents and me. I spent my childhood in the private house of my grandma in suburbs. And so it was full of, you know, harvesting and fruit and vegetables and all the smells and being close to the soil and everything it gives you, you know. So I'm really happy that I spent my childhood in this surrounding, and I have a really strong appreciation of actually spending time in a private house and dreaming of getting one for yourself. Even though I'm completely a city person, I really like to live in the center of Kyiv, you know, and all that. But then we moved to an apartment, and it was very different living on the fourth floor and having neighbors all around you in this big house, you know. It was a very different perception of the city. That's what the word I was looking for.
You were talking about, food. You were working the lands. What's up with watermelons? This is like really big in Kherson.
Well, first of all, it's a really big and important agricultural region of Ukraine, and all of us, all around the country, felt the Russian occupation in Kherson because of how much fruit and vegetables it was giving to all Ukraine. And so it has become less of fruit and vegetables, and they became much more expensive due to Russian occupation. And with the watermelons, like, I don't know, this is the region of where we grow them, and the climate is the best for them. But
Yeah, because this became a meme, right? It just, this Kherson watermelon thing.
well, a meme is something, I don't know, more like humorous, but it's just a fact. You go to Kherson, you eat the best watermelons, and they used to come by the river to Kyiv. How do you call barja?
Barja.
Yeah,
I
this
know
big
sparja.
thing.
Asparagus.
This big sort of a boat that's floating down the river with it can carry sand, or I don't
A
know.
boat carrying sand?
Oh, господи, barja. This is embarrassing.
It's fine. We'll just say boat and move on.
No, it's not
Okay,
a boat.
it's a ship.
It's sort of a ship. Wait.
Oh, barge?
It's a barge, actually.
Okay, yeah, that's the same. It's,
Jesus,
yeah.
it is embarrassing. So yeah, they used to put a shitload of watermelons on the barge and send them down Dnipro to Kyiv, and now it's not happening, especially after they Kakhovska HES.
Occupation? Oh,
No.
Olga Dam. Okay,
Yes,
exploded.
Jesus.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not a meme. It's just it's
Oh,
a
no,
fact.
I've seen like T-shirts. They have the tractor and then they have the
Yes, it's
watermelon.
like the easiest way to say where you're from is wearing a T-shirt with a watermelon, so that people know you're
Yeah.
from Kherson.
So speaking of memes about Kherson, because I know it's not a meme, but okay, I'm just moving along, but moving with it. So, what are some inside jokes about Kherson? Because like I told you before, like Zhytomyr doesn't exist. This like something like that. What's going on with Kherson? I wanna.
Jokes about Kherson.
Yeah, or
I
just.
really don't know any.
Do you guys have any like phrases, or like a way people speak down there that if you hear it, you're like, yeah, that person's from Kherson.
No, it has always been mostly a Russian-speaking region.
Fool.
Yeah.
Joking.
I gotta go.
Joking.
So, I don't think we have any special. I don't think like you hear someone speak and you're like, oh yeah, that's where you come from.
Mhm. No special accent. How about phrases? Yeah, because
I really can't pick anything.
no, yeah, because yeah, when I was in Odessa, I was living there for about a year, and then I was traveling around Ukraine, and I see certain people, and I'm like, I think that person's from Odessa because they have like this look to them. Kyiv, it's like kind of mixed.
Huh.
I guess people from Lviv in the western part of Ukraine, I can have like this eye for it. But Kherson,
Well, I don't know. In terms of language, there's nothing I can really specify. But in terms of looks, well, I told you it's incredibly hot in summer. So when people are whining here in Kyiv that, oh my God, it's so hot, like you don't know what hot means unless you come from Kherson. So the temperature is so dreadfully, awfully high. And there's no rain, there's no wind, there's no savior. And if you don't have any air conditioning, like there's nowhere to escape. This is why I have very high tolerance for the cold, because you can always.
so the whole region is like that. Have you traveled throughout the region?
Yeah.
So yeah, Kherson is, from what I know, it's one of the most diverse regions. They have access to the Black Sea.
Yes.
Yeah. There's an islands. They have a desert. They have a lake that is pink for some reason. I think it's because of salt. I'm not like
No, it's the algae.
the algae.
Yeah, the
okay,
algae.
so I was wrong, but it's pink. I got
Yeah.
50% credit on that. So have you been to these places? I haven't. I've seen
No.
photos though.
No,
You haven't?
and the tragedy is I will never be able to visit them. The way they looked before full-scale invasion, like that's impossible to get back to that.
Yeah.
But it's a funny and a sad story when you live in a place and you don't know it as well as tourists who come and are really eager to explore. You just live there.
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. I'm from LA and I was hosting couch surfers, and whenever they would come, they would say, I want to go here. Have you been? And I'm like, no, actually I haven't. And these are like some notable tourist spots.
Because you have this you have this idea that you will always have time to do that. Like, why would I explore my region if I already live here? I would rather go elsewhere, and then you go elsewhere, and then Russians come, and yeah.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you grew up there. Are there any, like, special traditions from Kherson?
Traditions.
Do you guys celebrate Ivana Kupala, for example? Or just any traditions like that? No traditions?
Nothing comes to my mind. But it's really sad that my region was pretty much influenced by Russians. And that's why it's not like, the further west you go in Ukraine, the more traditions you can specify and point out. But when it comes to my home place, I mean, I grew with a Ukrainian-speaking grandma, and she used to tell stories about Kazakhy, etc., and she was really into Ukrainian history, and as long as I remember her, she always read something about Hetmanshina and so on. But I don't remember us celebrate traditional Christmas. Or
Do you celebrate the Christmas on, was it January 17th?
Yeah, no, 7th.
7th, okay.
Yeah.
I knew it
In
was
my
7th.
childhood, it has always been 7th,
And now I guess most of Ukraine is celebrating on the 25th.
yeah, like the whole world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in Kherson they were doing on the 7th. Because in Odessa it's mostly the 7th as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for us it was the 7th of January, and for my family, the New Year has always been the biggest celebration of the year. And only now, like in retrospective, I'm looking back and I understand that Soviets like really worked hard to put in our minds this one holiday throughout the year, which would gather everybody around so-called table all across the USSR. And that's why they took away Christmas from us, and they gave us this artificial New Year, whatever, But yeah, like I have lots of regret that I don't have these family traditions, even though I had this very Ukraine-oriented grandma from my mom's side.
And your babusia, your grandma, she's from Kherson, right?
Not from the city, but from the region. Yeah.
Okay, right on. And so she grew up there her whole life. So
She built a house that I grew up in, like with her own hands.
Around what year was she born?
1925.
1925.
Yes.
Well, it's around the same time as my grandma. 1925. So she went through World War II. Did she talk about that at all?
No, not really. Like most of people of that generation, they don't really like to talk about
It's called
war.
like the silent generation, I believe.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Yes. And we never talked about Holodomor, and these are the things I really regret that I won't be able to ask her about them, because she passed away when I was like 20, so a long time ago. And I didn't really have interest in those matters back then. And I don't think that my mom was asking those questions either. Well, first of all, they weren't really close, but that's not even the point. I wasn't really interested in understanding my heritage, my roots, my Ukrainianness, because we just thought we all came from this general place, and we all had that idea that Russians and Ukrainians are sort of alike. And I grew up speaking Russian, like my whole life, even though
In school they were teaching Ukrainian, or
yes. Well, the irony is my school was one of the 2 schools in Kherson that had Ukrainian as a primary language. I never studied Russian, actually. Like, I never had a class of Russian in my whole life. But yeah, that's why I've always known Ukrainian really well. But the surrounding and the pop culture and the friends and everything, the movies, the translation of the movies, the whole thing has always been in Russian. That's why I grew up speaking Russian. And this is the big reason why I don't have the answer to some of your questions, like what are the inside jokes or something, because many of those things are supposed to be linked to language, first of all, and some Ukrainian traditions which are different from region to region. And I just remember my childhood and my adolescence being so, how do you say, Russifikovani?
it's like Russification.
Yeah, Russificated,
Yeah.
basically. So I just remember myself being somewhere in between. I never felt like I was Russian, and that's the only nation basically that I have always had a prejudice against. I don't know why, because even way long before Maidan, I sort of felt like, yeah, we're the same, but we're not.
Yeah.
But that's the reason I don't have the answer to a list of questions like, what is very Khersonish, whatever you say. And it's really, it's peachy.
So you speak mostly Ukrainian now, I imagine.
Yeah, I speak exclusively Ukrainian.
Okay, and you think in Ukrainian.
Sure.
When did you make that transition? Because you grew up speaking Russian, right?
I did, but, well, I made the transition in 2022, in May, at the beginning of May. I didn't switch to Ukrainian in 2014, which I really regret, because then it didn't seem like a crucial thing to do, but it was, and that's something I cannot correct because I cannot get back in time, But yeah, I completely switched to Ukrainian 3 years ago with my husband, with my parents, with all of my friends. I didn't have that transition period when I was like talking to my husband in Ukrainian and to everybody else in Russian, or vice versa, or I was writing my social media posts in Ukrainian and then turning back to my mom and speaking Russian.
You never had like that moment where you're speaking Surgic?
No.
No?
No, my Ukrainian, that's the thing, and that's really sad and stupid that my Ukrainian has always been really good. I just didn't let it come out. And I told you, I'm a writer. I have 3 books published and sold out, all of them in Russian. And I always thought that, oh no, I will never be able to write something in Ukrainian as good as in Russian, because all the literature I read in my whole life that was translated from English, French, like the whole world literature, was read in Russian by me and was reflected on in Russian in my brain. So I became a writer in Russian. And that's why I thought, like, I would never be able to become successful or to have my book sold out in Ukrainian, because I thought so low of myself. And then just click, one day I switched to Ukrainian and everything is going great.
Have you published a book in Ukrainian? I'm not translated to Ukrainian, but like
no.
Ukrainian?
I won't be translating any of my books in Ukrainian that were published already. No, that's like no, I don't want to do that. And no, I haven't written anything in Ukrainian yet, anything new, because it's really hard, and I have issues with my mental health, and it's just a very hard period. Like, well, I shouldn't be explaining. Yeah.
But back to Kherson then. No, I'd love to have one of your books. But I can't read Russian too well.
You can't, because they're sold out.
They're sold
literally,
out.
I don't have a single one. Oh, I have a single one, but it's like mine. So.
Darn. What if I steal it?
Well, you don't know where I live, so.
I know where your studio is. Yeah.
No books in there.
Damn it. Can you bring a book to the studio one day and tell me what time you'll be there? Okay, so back to Kherson. Look at my cards.
Okay. Where were we?
What? Okay, so how has the city changed over the years? I mean, I'm sure you haven't gone back since 2022 at least, right? So growing up there and then just, I guess, before 2022, how has it changed?
In general, I have a feeling that things became worse.
Really? Why?
Well, because nobody cares about the restoration of historical buildings, and there are many of them, and they just shrink over time. You can see the way they grow into the ground and become smaller, and with all the cracks. And
why do you think that happens?
Well, because nobody gives a shit about the historical heritage, because it's easier to remove something and build a shopping mall or whatever.
And what's the political situation like within the government? I mean, before the local government, even like before the war?
Well, they were pro-Russian.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, nobody was chanting in the street that they love Putin or something, but, it was the region that sort of tended to vote for pro-Russian politicians. But once again, I haven't lived in Ukraine between 2012 and 2017, so with the Revolution of Dignity, I wasn't here. But people were coming out in the streets, and they didn't want Yanukovych in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was this sort of ugly balance of people who wanted to stay pro-Ukrainian with those who sort of tended to be pro-Russian. And, you know, even my parents lost some of their friends in this battle of values, should I call it.
Yeah. So, from what you're telling me, it seems, you love your city and you just want better for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what makes you proud to be someone from Kherson?
Well, as you said, when you see someone from Odessa, you can tell they're from Odessa. If you meet people from... Do you know anybody from Kherson in Kyiv?
In Kyiv, not off the top of my head, but I knew a guy from Kherson, but doesn't live in Kyiv.
In my experience and in my local friends' experience, when you meet someone from Kherson, these are very open, bright, hardworking people, very kind-hearted. So, and it's something I have been experiencing, the whole time that I haven't lived in my hometown, but I met people, even when I lived in Paris, when I met someone.
From Kherson?
Yeah, there is some kind of, this warm spark in people from
Do you guys have like a
Kherson.
secret handshake? Kherson?
No, not that I know of.
Or maybe they didn't give it to you. Like, not her.
So it's, every region is people, first of all. And I have a feeling like people from my region and people from my city are so cool, not because of, but due to the fact that they didn't agree to be the epitome of this stereotype of pro-Russian Southern Ukrainians,
Yeah.
Like, yes, we speak Russian and whatever, but we love Ukraine. And this is a Ukrainian city. So, but yeah, there's this warm Southern spark, I would say.
Yeah, no, I feel the same from Odessa when I was living there. So my ex-girlfriend, she's from Odessa. She spoke Russian. All of her friends spoke Russian, more or less, except for like a couple. But mostly Russian. We celebrate Christmas on January 7th. Or New Year's, right? Yeah, okay. And it was, very Russian. It's not like it was pro-Russian. It just, this is how they grew up. This is how the traditions were, because the Russians kind of, I guess, eradicated the Ukrainian traditions. But it's not like they didn't like Ukraine. All of them were very supportive of the Ukraine. They donated money. They shared posts. They hated what Russia was doing to the country. They don't want to be part of Russia. They just happen to speak Russian because this is where they're from. And there is like this... Like, I remember this one time I was in Poland with her, and there was some other friends. All my friends are Ukrainian, so we're in Poland at my friend's house in Warsaw, and one's from Kryvyi Rih, and the other one is from I believe Kyiv, and they spoke Russian maybe 2014 or something like this, and they switched. They're speaking Ukrainian, and then when I was there with my ex-girlfriend, she was speaking Russian. Then they were asking her, "Why are you speaking Russian?" And she's like, "I'm from Odessa. We speak Russian." Well, they were talking about the war, and she was getting upset, and she was telling me like, these girls, it's cool they're speaking Ukrainian and all that, but now they're starting to maybe isolate me. I'm from Odessa. I support the military. I donate. I pay taxes because I still live in Ukraine, and they're living in a different country, saying they're more supportive of Ukraine because they speak a language than I am when they don't even live in the country anymore.
Plus, it's the language issue is very sensitive, and you can look at it from many different sides, and I totally can understand your ex. Like, I see where she's coming from. But in my opinion, like 3 years post the moment I switched to Ukrainian, and I think it was the best decision of a conscious grown-up person, I just look at it like, you guys don't want to sacrifice a teeny tiny bit of your personal comfort because you're just used to speaking Russian.
No.
Well, it's not like you're incapable of speaking Ukrainian or you can't learn. Like, whatever, you moved to Germany, you studied German.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, but due to the fact that everybody understands you here when you speak Russian, like, why change anything? It's so comfy.
Yeah.
Why would I do that?
But I get that. And one of my biggest criticisms towards her was that this is one of the reasons why Russia invaded, because they want to
Yes.
protect people like her that speak Russian.
Mm-hmm.
But then the counter argument to that is it's just a BS excuse, BS reason.
Well, 100%.
Yeah, so even if you switch because of that reason, like they'll make up like 30 other reasons why they invaded, because
Exactly,
they'd make a new one up every week.
And after all, what are you trying to protect? Like,
Yeah.
I was thinking about it, like, I really want to make Ukraine more Ukrainian again. Because,
And
yeah,
how are you going to do that?
well, by more and more people speaking Ukrainian.
Так, блін. Моя українська мова не добре, на жаль, я говорю по-русски.
Well, you speak Russian?
Да, но не ідеально, но я говорю по-русски.
But do you understand Ukrainian when you?
Yeah, I can understand maybe like 40-50% Ukrainian. I understand like a lot more Russian. My speaking in Russian's a lot better. I'm starting to learn Ukrainian now. I mean, I missed my last few classes, but I'm taking Ukrainian lessons. And yeah, I want to speak, but honestly, to me, I know Ukrainian's a more beautiful language, but to me, it's more difficult to learn. The accents, the tongue rolling, it's more difficult than Russian, to me at least.
Well, because you
Yeah.
already have Russian as the base,
Yeah.
If you started with Ukrainian, then Russian would be more difficult to you.
I get really confused too, because sometimes I think this word's Ukrainian and it's Russian, and I'm speaking Surzhyk, and people, they don't think I'm crazy, but I think I'm speaking Ukrainian. I'm like, oh, I'm a good dobry chłopчик. And then I'm just like speaking like
I
a
really
Surzhyk.
like the way you write all those Ukrainian phrases and word combinations in Latin.
Oh, yeah.
The alphabet. It's like the dobry chłopчик or
Oh, no, I do that
or
because...
девчонка. It's really funny.
I do that because it'll take me an hour just to write something on the keyboard in Ukraine. I'm like, okay, where's the D? Where's the O? And yeah, in Latin, I'm like, okay, easy. Done and done. But yeah, so when I first came to Ukraine, okay, I'll give you a little backstory on me.
Okay.
Back in LA, I'm from LA, I was dating a Russian girl. We were together 5 years. I took a class of Russian. So we were speaking just basic, like, привет, как дела? Нормально. Something like this. And I can read, and that was like day one stuff. And then I moved to Ukraine, and we broke up. I moved to Ukraine. And I came here, and I was okay, maybe I'll learn Ukrainian. But everyone around me was speaking like Surzhyk, Russian. I'm like, okay, I already have this base of Russian. And I used to work for Preply, which is this online language learning platform. I was working in marketing. And they give us like a few $100s to study on the platform, to spend on the platform, to learn any language you want.
Okay.
And I took Russian, unfortunately. And I started to learn more, and then I didn't understand the importance of it at the time. And then 2022 hit, and I just feel ashamed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we both feel for our past, but something you really should let go, because this is the time of making right choices now. It's not about making right choice in 2014. We can regret about many things, but this is the time to do something now.
Yeah.
Do the right thing now, and the right thing is choosing Ukrainian. That's the only right thing, and I'm so tired of explaining of it. I had so many scandalous posts on my Instagram about it, and every time I open my mouth to say something about it, like, I'm really straightforward when it comes to language, and people will always reproach me with my 3 books in Russian. And will always tell me, oh yeah, you're the one who has been speaking Russian her whole life, and now you're telling us what to do. Yeah, god fucking damn.
Yeah.
Because I understand how wrong it was, and you still don't.
Yeah.
And, I told you, my husband and I, we have this photo studio in the city center in Maidan, and so many families come, like mom, dad, and a little boy or girl, and they speak Russian with their children, and it's something that fucking breaks my heart, like, what future are you building for them? Do you want them to be as confused as you? Like, Mom, why do we speak Russian, but we live in Ukraine, but Russians invaded us and they're bad, but we speak their language, so maybe Russian singers are not bad, maybe they're out of politics, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this huge snowball is growing into this confusement, like the crisis of identity, who am I? Like, I remember myself why did I feel so in between? And at the same time, I really didn't like Russians, but I spoke their language and I really admired Russian literature. And now I hate Russian literature because this whole space it's taking in my head could have been taken by Ukrainian authors, which are great. And now I understand that like it's not necessary to know all that culture to understand how the world functions. Like everything Russian is not universal, neither the language nor cinematography, literature, etc., etc. Like I dedicated such a huge part of my life and my being to integrate myself into this culture, and now I just can't cut it off. So
Yeah. So growing up in Kherson, I know you were exposed to a lot of Russian literature. You said, were you exposed to much Ukrainian literature, or was it just like the basics, Shevchenko, Ukrainka?
our home library was full of Ukrainian books because I told you about my babusia. She was the ambassador of everything Ukrainian, and this is why I think due to her, I speak the language so well, and this transition was so easy for me. Thanks to her, first of all. But I didn't really tend to take any books from that home library. I don't know. Between Zagrebelny and Griboyedov, for some reason, I chose the latter. I don't know.
Have you read Kobzar?
Well, yeah, we had a big book with this orange cover. I still remember it.
Kobzar is basically just a collection of poems, right?
Yes,
Is that?
a very big collection.
I
like
went to the Kobzar
fundamental.
Museum, and I feel like I learned that there.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Cherkasy, by the way.
Yeah, but you know, we study Shevchenko at school, but we also study him from the. I don't know about now what angle the education system is taking on Shevchenko because he's a very cool guy, actually.
Yeah,
He-
nice mustache too. Wish I can grow one like that.
He loved to party, and at some point you
Yeah.
can tell he had нічого святого in some issues. Yeah, but the teachers used to show Shevchenko to us as this fundamental, untouchable figure of a huge authority. Like you barely perceived him as a human. Maybe changed now, but the way he was represented back then in the program, he wasn't really attractive to a kid of 12 or 16 years old. You know, that's not something we.
Yeah, now he's almost like a legend.
Well, he is. We call
Yeah.
him father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No?
Батько.
Батько наш
Батько.
Бандера, Україна мати.
Well, that's another father. Yeah.
So, how do you feel about Bandera then, since I just said that? Because you're from Kherson, it's like,
Well, I know some facts from his biography. Everybody knows he's controversial, and his takes on nationalism might seem extreme to some people, and yeah, there will always be controversy around him. But just ask yourself, if you don't like Bandera, but you like Ukraine, if you're patriotic, guys, imagine there was no Bandera in our history. Just cut him out. Where would we be now as a nation? Yeah, there was Shuhevich and others, but just cut him out. Can you imagine our history and where would we be now in this war? That's a big question. And
that's an interesting thought. I
and
never
that's
thought of that.
that mostly tells you everything about him. He's huge. He's very important.
Yeah, I remember I was in Lviv for New Year's, this last New Year, and they had this rally. I guess Bandera's birthday is on January 1st. And so they had this rally on the street. They're like lighting stuff up, and they had this chant. I still remember it. It's Bandera, Shuhevich, Heroye Ukraina.
Yeah.
But I know they love him on the West. Yeah, I know it's
but-
like a controversial figure.
No,
but-
he is Batko, definitely.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, so back to Kherson. We're going to wrap it up soon, but back to Kherson. No, I just loved your insight on everything Ukrainian. But back to Kherson. You guys have 3 districts, right?
3?
That's what Wikipedia told me.
Okay, name them.
They have Centralny,
Well,
you have Dniprovsky,
yes.
and Korabelny,
Yes.
and
Дніпровський, центральний, корабельний.
because you said there's more. I mean,
Yeah, well, okay, that is correct, but as long as I'm local, I sort of can name more.
More districts.
But they will be micro districts.
Ah, we don't do that here.
Well,
We do macro districts.
well, I mean, Ostriv.
Island? It's
yeah.
Island district?
Yeah, that's my district.
Oh, you're an island girl.
Yeah,
Ah.
Шуменський, Житлоселище, Забалка, Воєнка.
Like Balka.
Well, yeah, ХБК.
Okay, so we'll just go off these three districts
Okay.
since I'm not going to remember those districts you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, say if I'm like a hipster dude, I'm not really. Which district would I end up in, for a coffee or something, hipster style?
Центральний.
Centralny?
Sure.
Okay, say I'm a buidlo, I want to get some good semki. Where am I going?
Well, there's always a place for a bidlo.
Always a place. There's always an ATB.
Let's say Dniprovsky, whatever.
Dniprovsky. Okay. Say I'm a pretty girl and I want to go party, meet some interesting young men. Where do I go?
Центральный.
Centralny.
Sure.
Okay. Say I'm a babusia, I want to sell my morkovi on the street. Where do I go?
Dniprovsky.
Dniprovsky. Okay.
The third one
Wait,
is like left
who-
out.
Yeah, who hangs out in Korabelny? I feel like I covered all the the demographics here.
But it's mostly like, the, what do you call them? The sleeping districts. With,
Sleepy.
so, yeah.
Okay, so it's. Yeah. Okay, so farmer.
Nothing happens there. People just live
do
there.
people farm? You said it's a farming
in
city.
Dniprovsky.
They farm in Dniprovsky.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where do people sleep then? Is that Korabelny? It is good.
We call them спальні райони, where it's mostly like multi-storied buildings where people...
It's like Zhuka or like some
Yeah,
old
yeah,
cliché?
Zhuka.
Zhuka,
Yeah, that's
okay.
it.
So it's just like young people with families.
Not necessarily young, just people with families.
Okay.
Schools, kindergartens.
Yeah, because I was going to say grew up, but I lived in Kotlubinski for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And this is basically an up-and-coming like micro district of Kyiv. And yeah, it was like full of Zhukas, and it was young families everywhere, kids in strollers. And I know that I used to go to Irpin a lot, and Irpin was like that as well, just more beautiful.
No, but it's more like the Kyiv agglomeration, and Kherson is a small place, so...
Yeah. So, last question.
Okay.
What is the best thing about Kherson? You can't say watermelon, because that's my answer.
No, because it's not the best thing.
Okay, you can't say yourself, because that's conceited.
The river, the nature.
The river and the nature.
Yeah, I grew up, swimming in Dnipro. So that's why I really love the sea, and once you saw the ocean, like you understand the beauty of it. But I always get back in mind to this river beaches and, just having the sand all over your body under your swimsuit and everything.
Do you miss Kherson?
Well, I do.
Yeah.
I
Are
do.
you optimistic about the future of Kherson?
No and yes. It's really shattered. It's being ruined daily, and I don't really see the perspective of some Switzerland or whoever coming and saying, yeah, we are responsible for renovating this district. No, I don't think it will happen. And with the level of corruption in my region and in my city, I don't really see that coming. So, but I'm optimistic because people really, really want to go back home.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about my parents who haven't seen their home for almost 3 years because they left in June of 2022. And yeah, they miss it as hell.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, I guess last question.
Okay.
Would you ever run for mayor of Kherson?
Oh God, no.
Why not? I think you'd make a good mayor. Like
No.
I'd vote for you a couple of times,
What?
like
No.
illegally. I can't even vote, and I'm still gonna do it.
You're talking like Elon Musk's mom.
Yeah,
She was
exactly.
agitating for that. No, just because I'm not made for that. Like I hate all the administrative,
Okay.
stuff.
So I rescind my votes. I'm voting for a third party now.
I will forever be a Kherson ambassador. That's
Kherson
for sure.
ambassador.
Yeah.
Okay. So one day we have to split open a watermelon, have another talk.
Okay. And eat it with two
About
spoons.
Korabelny district, because I
That's
feel like
actually my district. Ostriv belongs
So
to
the most boring
Caribbean.
district is where you're from.
No, it's not boring. It's really fun because it's on the river and it has beaches and
Oh, it's very beautiful then.
and yes, and,
Okay.
and men are not wearing shirts in
Ooh.
summer. Oh no,
Whoa,
no,
whoa,
no!
whoa,
This
whoa,
is
whoa.
so
Wait.
not attractive. But that's subject for another podcast.
Okay, that's
so.
like when we cut open the watermelon. That's
Yep.
that's what we'll talk about. Got it. Okay, Olga. Well, thank you for coming on. So, thanks for watching this episode of whatever this is called, podcast with me, Corey. And if you want to see more episodes like this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and if you want to leave a comment on where to get the best watermelon in Kyiv or Kherson, you can comment down below because Olga will definitely be reading the comments, right, Olga?
Yes, and
You sure?
judging you.
And she's gonna judge you as well, especially you, Igor. Okay, there's gonna be an Igor watching. So
My dad, it's
Yeah,
his name. So
Really?
Yeah, one
So-
Igor will be watching.
Yeah. So Igor, if you're watching, you owe me a watermelon. Okay, a big one. But thanks again, and yeah, Olga, cheers.
Thanks for having me.
Ooh.